Some places become famous because of their history. Others become famous because of the people who live there. But a few places earn their reputation because of the terrifying stories that refuse to die. Borley Rectory is one of those places. For nearly a century, it has been at the center of one of the world's most controversial paranormal mysteries. Everything you're about to hear is based on historical records, eyewitness testimonies, newspaper reports, and paranormal investigations. While many of the events remain heavily debated, they have helped make Borley Rectory one of the most infamous haunted locations in history. Hidden in the peaceful countryside of Essex, England, Borley Rectory looked like an ordinary Victorian house. Built in 1862 for the Reverend Henry Dawson Ellis Bull and his family. The large red brick rectory stood beside the village church, surrounded by quiet fields and ancient trees. To anyone passing by during the day, it appeared to be nothing more than a home for the local rector. No one could have imagined that this isolated building would one day become known around the world as the most haunted house in England. The rectory's terrifying reputation did not appear overnight. Over the years, family members, servants, visitors, and even people who had never met each other began reporting strangely similar experiences. They claimed to hear unexplained footsteps echoing through empty hallways, mysterious knocks on doors when no one was outside, and bells ringing despite no one pulling the cords. Some witnesses even reported seeing the ghostly figure of a nun silently walking across the garden at dusk before disappearing into thin air. Whether these encounters were real or the result of fear and imagination remains a matter of debate, but the stories spread quickly throughout England. By the early 20th century, Borley Rectory had become a destination for journalists, paranormal investigators, and curious visitors eager to discover the truth. Some arrived expecting to expose an elaborate hoax, while others hoped to witness proof of the supernatural. Few places had generated so many reports of unexplained activity over such a long period. But according to local legend, the haunting did not begin with the rectory itself. The true story, many believed, had started centuries earlier, with a forbidden love, a tragic betrayal, and a spirit that was never able to find peace. Long before Borley Rectory was built, local villagers believed the land was already haunted. According to a legend that had been passed down for generations, a monastery once stood near the site, while a convent was located a short distance away. Although historians have never found conclusive evidence to prove every detail of this story, the tale became deeply rooted in local folklore and would later become inseparable from Borley Rectory's haunting. The legend tells of a young monk who fell in love with a nun, despite the strict religious vows that forbade such a relationship. Knowing they could never be together openly, the two met in secret whenever darkness covered the countryside. As their love grew stronger, they decided to escape and leave their old lives behind forever. One night, they planned to flee together, hoping to begin a new life far away from the monastery. But according to the story, someone discovered their plan before they could escape. The lovers were captured, and the punishment that followed was brutal. The monk was reportedly executed for breaking his sacred vows, while the nun was said to have suffered an even more horrifying fate. Legend claims she was sealed alive within the walls of the convent, left to die in darkness. Whether this actually happened has never been proven, but the tragic tale became one of the oldest ghost stories in Sussex. Over the following centuries, travelers and local residents occasionally claimed to see the figure of a sorrowful nun wandering silently through the fields where Borley Rectory would eventually be built. Witnesses described her as wearing a dark robe, moving slowly across the gardens before fading into the evening mist without leaving a trace. Most people dismissed these reports as nothing more than folklore, believing the legend would eventually be forgotten. However, when Borley Rectory was built in 1862, the sightings did not disappear. Instead, they seemed to become more frequent. Before long, the Bull family themselves would begin experiencing strange events inside their new home. What had once been dismissed as an old village legend, was about to become a mystery that would attract the attention of the entire country. In 1862, the Reverend Henry Dawson Ellis Bull completed the construction of Borley Rectory to serve as the residence for the rector of the nearby church. The spacious Victorian house was built for his large family and quickly became one of the most impressive buildings in the quiet village of Borley. At first, life at the rectory appeared peaceful. The family devoted themselves to church duties, raising children, and caring for the surrounding community. Nothing suggested that the house would one day become the center of one of Britain's greatest paranormal mysteries. Yet, according to later accounts, strange incidents began to occur not long after the family settled in. At first, they were easy to dismiss. Unexplained footsteps were reportedly heard in empty corridors, even when everyone in the house was accounted for. Doorbells occasionally rang without anyone standing outside, and faint knocking sounds echoed through the walls late at night. The Bull family assumed the old house was simply settling, or that the sounds were caused by the wind. None of them imagined these small disturbances would become increasingly difficult to explain. As the years passed, the unusual events reportedly became more frequent. Servants claimed they heard voices when no one was nearby, while members of the family occasionally noticed doors opening on their own or objects appearing where they had not been left. The most unsettling reports came from people who believed they had seen a mysterious woman dressed as a nun walking silently across the garden near the church. She never spoke, never acknowledged anyone, and always disappeared before anyone could get close enough to identify her. Although these sightings were shared among family members and close friends, they remained largely unknown outside the village. The Bulls rarely spoke publicly about the incidents, perhaps fearing ridicule or believing there was a simple explanation they had yet to discover. But as the years went by, stories of the strange happenings slowly spread beyond Borley. By the beginning of the 20th century, the rectory's unsettling reputation had started to grow, setting the stage for an event that would bring the mysterious house to national attention. For many years, the strange events at Borley Rectory remained little more than whispered stories among the Bull family and the villagers. But in July 1900, something happened that transformed those local rumors into one of England's most enduring ghost legends. Several members of the Bull family claimed they saw a mysterious figure walking across the garden near the rectory in broad daylight. According to their account, the figure was that of a woman dressed in the dark robes of a nun. She moved slowly along a path leading toward the church, her head bowed as though she were deep in prayer. Believing she might be a real person, some members of the family called out to her. Receiving no response, they hurried toward the garden to meet her. But before they could reach the spot where she had been standing, the woman simply vanished. There was no gate through which she could have escaped, no nearby building where she could have hidden, and no sign that anyone had been there at all. This was not an isolated report. Over the following years, other villagers and visitors also claimed to have seen the same silent figure. Although the descriptions varied slightly, most witnesses spoke of a lonely nun walking peacefully across the grounds before disappearing near the churchyard. Because many of these people were unaware of the old local legend, their accounts only added to the mystery. Was this merely a shared illusion, or were they all witnessing the same unexplained phenomenon? News of the sightings gradually spread beyond the village, and Borley Rectory's reputation continued to grow. People traveled to the area hoping to catch a glimpse of the so-called phantom nun, while skeptics searched for ordinary explanations. Yet the sightings were only the beginning. In the years that followed, the unexplained activity inside the rectory reportedly became even more disturbing. Mysterious footsteps, ringing bells, and objects moving without explanation would soon attract the attention of paranormal investigators, making Borley Rectory one of the most talked about haunted houses in Britain. By the 1920s, Borley Rectory had gained a reputation that extended far beyond the small village of Borley. The stories were no longer limited to the mysterious nun seen in the garden. People who lived inside the house began reporting a growing number of strange incidents that seemed impossible to ignore. What had once been occasional, unexplained noises had, according to the witnesses, become a constant source of fear. Residents claimed they often heard heavy footsteps moving through empty hallways late at night, only to find no one there when they investigated. Bells that were connected to servant rooms reportedly rang without anyone touching them, even after some of the bell wires had been disconnected. Doors were said to open and close on their own, while unexplained knocking sounds echoed through the walls. On several occasions, household items were allegedly found in different places from where they had been left, and some visitors claimed they felt an unseen presence following them from room to room. The reports became even stranger when people began describing objects moving without an obvious cause. Stones and small items were reportedly thrown across rooms, and a few witnesses claimed they saw furniture shift slightly without anyone nearby. Although skeptics argued that many of these events could have been caused by natural factors, pranks, or simple misunderstandings, those who experienced them insisted that something inside the rectory defied ordinary explanation. As word of these unsettling incidents spread, newspapers became increasingly interested in the house. Journalists published stories about Borley Rectory, bringing its alleged haunting to readers across Britain. The growing publicity attracted curious visitors, paranormal enthusiasts, and professional investigators, all eager to uncover the truth behind the increasingly famous house. Among those who took a particular interest was a man who would become one of Britain's best-known paranormal investigators. His name was Harry Price, and his investigation of Borley Rectory would make the house famous around the world, while also sparking a controversy that continues to this day. In June 1929, the strange events at Borley Rectory took a dramatic turn when the story caught the attention of renowned paranormal investigator Harry Price. After reading newspaper reports about the alleged haunting, Price accepted an invitation to visit the rectory and investigate the claims for himself. His arrival brought unprecedented public attention to the isolated house, and before long, reporters gathered outside, eager to learn whether England's most famous ghost story was real. According to Price's account, unusual incidents began almost immediately after he entered the building. He later wrote that unexplained noises echoed through the house. Small stones and other objects appeared to be thrown without anyone nearby, and strange movements were witnessed by several people present during the investigation. While some believed these events were evidence of paranormal activity, critics argued that excitement, suggestion, or even deliberate trickery could have played a role. Nevertheless, the reports fueled the rectory's growing reputation. Not everyone accepted Price's conclusions. Skeptics questioned his methods and suggested that some of the reported phenomena could have been exaggerated or misunderstood. Even so, Price remained convinced that Borley Rectory deserved further investigation. He believed there were too many eyewitness accounts, collected over many years from different people, to dismiss the entire case without careful study. Determined to gather more evidence, Price later organized one of the largest paranormal investigations ever attempted in Britain. He invited a rotating group of observers to spend time inside the rectory, carefully recording anything unusual they experienced. Their diaries contained reports of unexplained footsteps, mysterious knocks, strange lights, and other incidents that they claimed occurred during their stay. Whether these accounts represented genuine paranormal activity or the power of expectation remains a subject of debate. But Price's investigation transformed Borley Rectory from a local ghost story into an international mystery. The most disturbing events, however, were still yet to come. In October 1930, Borley Rectory welcomed new residents when the Reverend Lionel Foyster, his wife Mary Ann, and their adopted daughter Adelaide moved into the house. They were aware of its unsettling reputation, but hoped the stories had been exaggerated. According to the Foysters, it did not take long before they began experiencing strange incidents of their own. They later reported hearing footsteps in empty rooms, violent knocks on doors, objects disappearing and reappearing in unexpected places, and unexplained noises that often occurred late at night. The most disturbing claims centered around Marianne Foister. She alleged that she was frequently disturbed by unseen forces inside the rectory. Among the incidents she described were objects being thrown, furniture moving unexpectedly, and what she believed were physical assaults by an invisible presence. While some investigators accepted her testimony as genuine, others later suggested that stress, personal circumstances, or even deliberate deception might explain at least some of the reported events. The truth has never been conclusively established. Then came the incident that would become one of the most famous episodes in the history of Borley Rectory. Mysterious messages reportedly began appearing on the walls of the house. Written in chalk or pencil, they contained desperate phrases such as "Marianne, please help get," and "Marianne, like mass prayers." No one admitted to writing the messages, and their sudden appearance intensified the belief that the house was haunted by a spirit seeking help. Supporters of the paranormal saw the writings as an attempt by an unseen entity to communicate, while skeptics argued that there was no reliable evidence proving the messages had appeared supernaturally. The reports from the Foister family spread rapidly through newspapers and paranormal circles, making Borley Rectory even more infamous than before. The alleged hauntings had evolved from strange noises and ghostly sightings into claims of direct communication with an unseen force. Whether the messages were the work of restless spirits or something far more ordinary remains one of the most hotly debated aspects of the Borley mystery. But before investigators could reach a final conclusion, an unexpected disaster would change the fate of the rectory forever. In 1939, after years of investigations and growing public fascination, Harry Price leased Borley Rectory for another detailed study. He invited a number of volunteers to spend time inside the house, carefully documenting anything unusual they witnessed. Their journals contained reports of unexplained footsteps, mysterious knocks, doors opening on their own, and strange lights seen in the darkness. While believers viewed these accounts as further evidence that the rectory was genuinely haunted, skeptics argued that the stories relied too heavily on personal testimony and could not be independently verified. Then, on the night of February 27, 1939, disaster struck. A fire suddenly broke out inside Borley Rectory, rapidly spreading through the old wooden structure. Despite efforts to save the building, the flames consumed much of the house, leaving behind little more than charred walls and smoking ruins. The official explanation suggested that the fire had been accidental, but almost immediately, rumors began to circulate. Some believed the blaze had destroyed crucial evidence that might have solved the mystery once and for all. Others whispered that whatever haunted the rectory had finally unleashed its fury. Even after the fire, the strange stories did not end. Visitors to the ruins claimed they still heard unexplained footsteps and saw unusual lights moving among the remains. A few even reported seeing the familiar figure of the mysterious nun walking silently near the old church before disappearing into the darkness. To believers, these sightings suggested that the destruction of the building had not ended the haunting. If anything, they believed the spirits remained tied to the land itself. Although Borley Rectory was eventually demolished in 1944 because it had become unsafe, its legend survived. The house was gone, but the mystery had only grown. The debates surrounding the alleged hauntings continued, and investigators on both sides of the paranormal argument searched for answers. Had the fire simply destroyed an old rectory filled with exaggerated ghost stories, or had it erased the physical evidence of one of history's most extraordinary hauntings? The final chapter of the Borley mystery would attempt to answer that very question. The destruction of Borley Rectory did not bring an end to its story. In the years that followed, the case became one of the most hotly debated subjects in paranormal history. Supporters of Harry Price argued that the sheer number of eyewitness accounts collected over decades could not simply be dismissed. They pointed out that members of the Bull family, the Foister family, servants, visitors, investigators, and even local villagers had all reported unusual experiences. Although their stories differed in detail, many described the same unexplained footsteps, phantom bells, mysterious knocks, and the silent figure of the nun. Skeptics, however, reached a very different conclusion. They argued that many of the alleged hauntings relied on personal testimony rather than physical evidence. Some researchers suggested that certain incidents may have been exaggerated, misunderstood, or even deliberately staged. They also questioned Harry Price's investigative methods, believing that his desire to document paranormal activity may have influenced the way the evidence was presented. Decades later, the debate remains unresolved, with no explanation capable of satisfying everyone. Today, nothing remains of Borley Rectory except its history, its legends, and the countless stories left behind by those who claimed to have experienced the impossible. Yet visitors to the site have continued to report strange feelings, unexplained sounds, and on rare occasions, sightings of a lonely woman in dark robes walking near the church before disappearing without a trace. None of these modern claims have been conclusively verified, but they have ensured that the legend of Borley Rectory continues to live on. Perhaps that is why Borley Rectory remains one of the world's most famous haunted locations. Not because anyone has ever proved that ghosts live there, and not because every report can be explained away, but because its story exists in the space between belief and doubt. More than a century after the first strange sightings, one question still lingers in the minds of those who hear its tale. Was Borley Rectory simply the victim of fear, folklore, and coincidence? Or did something truly unexplained walk its halls after dark? That answer, as it has for generations, is left for each of us to decide. Borley Rectory may no longer stand, but its legacy continues to fascinate people around the world. Over the decades, countless books, newspaper articles, documentaries, and investigations have tried to uncover the truth behind the strange events reported there. Some believe the rectory was the scene of one of history's most remarkable paranormal cases, while others argue that the legend grew through misunderstandings, folklore, and sensational reporting. Despite years of research, no single explanation has ever resolved every claim associated with the house. Perhaps that is what makes the story of Borley Rectory so unforgettable. It is not just the reports of ghostly apparitions, mysterious messages, or unexplained footsteps that continue to capture our imagination. It is the uncertainty surrounding them. Every witness left behind a piece of the puzzle, but no one was able to complete the picture. The mystery survived the investigators, outlived the house itself, and continues to spark debate more than a century later. So what do you think? Was Borley Rectory truly England's most haunted house, or was it simply one of the greatest mysteries ever created by fear, coincidence, and human imagination? Whatever your answer may be, one fact cannot be denied. The legend of Borley Rectory refuses to disappear, and perhaps somewhere in the quiet fields of Essex, the silence still hides secrets that no one has ever fully uncovered. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's most controversial hauntings, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay curious. And if you ever find yourself walking alone near an abandoned house after sunset, you might want to listen carefully. Sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that are never completely explained.